Hello, freak bitches. So where do you go from here? Besides suing the fuck out of Google. Google, just give them some money. Just shut them up. Do you want to go through with a lawsuit? Like, what if they came to you with a settlement? Would you just take it and shut your mouth?
I really want somehow for them to address it, but I don't know how to do that.
Well, even if you lose in court, will they address it? They'll probably say, although we support the court, we disagree with the rulings, and we still support gender equality and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, I think part of it is that there's currently an asymmetry, so maybe Google is acting in their best interest to act the way that they are because they think that, there's all these activists that are trying to attack Google that only if they don't fit this certain party line.
Are there a lot of activists that are attacking Google in that regard?
Yeah, and we even see that there's now a potential class action lawsuit against Google
about
for gender pay disparity. And so they just are looking for anything. And if we say that, if there's only incentive coming from one side, then they're only going to push farther and farther to that side.
And this gender pay disparity, is this involving similar jobs?
Yeah, so they claim that it's the same job, although at least when Google was doing their own internal analysis, which they've been doing for years, they show that there's no disparity once you control for performance. And so it's really unclear.
But you control for performance. Performance tends to favor males?
Maybe. If that's what they're showing, that there is some sort of gender disparity if you just look at aggregate.
Look at this. 1 in 100 million chance alleged gender pay gap at Google is random, says class action lawyer. Oh, Jesus. Class action lawyer says that in the articles written by a chick. Fake news! Fake news! You're not going to get me, you fucks.
One thing is, I don't think that they really have Google's internal data, so there's no way for them to say whether or not it's based on performance.
Look what they're saying here. Notices seeking women currently or formerly employed at Google for possible inclusion in a planned class action lawsuit. First of all, people hear that and they're like, we're going to get paid. We're going to Sizzler, right? That's just... You're playing on human instincts when you seek out people that may have been employed for a possible inclusion in a class action lawsuit. That's not saying that they weren't wronged, because I don't know. Several dozen came forward in a matter of weeks. That's a pretty high level of dissatisfaction, says James Feinberg. No, it's not. No, there's fucking thousands of people who've worked there, and a couple dozen came forward. That's not a high level of satisfaction. How many people have been employed at Google that are no longer employed? It's probably tens of thousands, right?
Yeah, there's 70,000 people working there now.
Okay. So for this guy to say that's a pretty high level of dissatisfaction when several dozen, let's say 3 dozen, let's go crazy. Let's say it's 40 people. Let's get nuts. That's fucking nobody, man.
Yeah.
70 women.
It's always
Feinberger's heard from. But wait a minute, heard from. That doesn't, you mean they might not even make sense? That might not be a case? 4 people. 4! That's not a lot, you fuck. The class action. That's just... This is a fucking ambulance chaser.
Right.
I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm not saying there's not sexual discrimination, but I'm saying these articles are sneaky as fuck. 4 people. You got 4 people.
And I don't know how an individual would know whether or not they're paid differently just based on their sex, right? Because there's so many variables at play. So you really have to look at the system as a whole, because there are definitely some men that are paid less than the women too.
When you control for
some
performance,
examples like that.
The problem is when you control for performance, if it turns out that men are being paid more, then you have to figure out some sort of a way to justify that. Or, if men are being paid more when you control for performance, what is it that's causing the men to be paid more? Why are they performing better? Is it the environment? Are they feel more comfortable? Is it lack of suppression that the women experience?
Yeah, so I guess when you look at the nationwide gender gap in pay where, you know, even Obama has said 77 cents per dollar is too little.
Yeah, but he's a silly person. Like, he shouldn't have done that. Like, he knows, like, when Obama said that, he knows that that's not being honest, because you're talking about completely different jobs, different choices. For people who don't know, okay, let's just break that down real quick. This thing, because people repeat it ad nauseum, and it's just not true. The gender pay gap of 77 cents to $1 that a male makes is based on the choices that people make as far as like what they do for a living. It's based on the amount of hours that they work. Men tend to work longer hours. Women tend, especially if they get pregnant. All those things are factored in. That's where you get 77 cents on average for the dollar that the male makes. What it implies, and this is where it's disingenuous, is that two people working side by side doing the same job, and the male's getting 77 or $1 for the woman's 77 cents. That's not what the gender pay gap actually means. And if Google is actually, if someone is saying, if there's a lawsuit that's saying that a man and a woman are doing the exact same job with the exact same performance, and the woman is only getting 77 cents on the dollar, then you got a real issue, right?
Yeah. And so it's often that, you know, there's different hours worked, and it doesn't even have to be that, you know, they work twice as many or 30% more. It's sometimes if you just work, you know, 44 hours a week versus 34 hours or something, then there's a huge pay disparity.
Yeah.
And that's irrespective of what gender you have. It's just, you know, especially at Google, there was so much time that was just, you know, replying to email and doing some base level stuff, going to meetings. And then you only had a little bit that was actually creative and providing value to the company.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's really inefficient in that regard.
Right. And, you know, it's similar in a lot of companies too. So, and that creates some of this, you know, nonlinear benefits of working just a little more per week. And, you know, we see this a lot in Silicon Valley, where there's a lot of people right out of college and they're willing to work a ton of time, especially, you know, you can essentially live at Google. So there's not, I mean, yeah, there's free food everywhere. There's showers, there's a gym.
They have beds?
There's nap pods.
Nap pods?
Yeah.
Wow.